few weeks ago, I decided to turn off the racing line. I have 400 plus hours in Forza. Quite a few of them have been quite a few, as if 400 plus is kind of a few. Most of the time, it's been in the multiplayer. Whether it was racing the GT2 cars, the GT3, the Miatas, the MX-5 Cup cars, the Formula Mazdas. I've done a lot of the featured multiplayer, and I just kind of feel like I owed it to myself to turn the line off. In other games, like I said, at Corsa, I actually had the line off, and when I came to Forza, I decided to turn it on just so I could be more competitive. And although it did make me more competitive, I was getting podiums, and felt like I was doing really well. I definitely felt like I was cheating myself. So I've decided, I'm going to turn it off and just fully commit to learning how to do it. I did it for a little bit in ACC, and I had some success, not a lot, but I wanted to carry that over to Forza, and it's a little trickier because Forza has so many different car classes. I can't, take what I learned from the GT2 series and go into the NASCAR series and kind of apply it, but at the same time, you kind of can. It's been a difficult transition. I didn't realize how dependent I was on the racing line until a couple hours of racing without the line. There'd be moments where I'd be battling people like this C7, where I just kind of screwed up my braking because I was so focused on being faster than the other car or trying to defend the other car from passing. But I have to admit, having the line off has been so much more rewarding than having the line on. Having the line off and getting like 5th feels way more, I don't know what word to use, but it's more rewarding than a first place with the line on. I don't really know how to put it any differently than that. You just feel better. Now, this video is probably going to wind up being more like a video journal than me actually commentating the race, but I'll probably make some remarks about the race as we go, but I want the main thing I talk about be trying to learn the race with the line off, because I wish there was someone I could have watched do it and hear from their experience, because there's a lot of things I just figured out as I went, and I would have saved me a lot of time if somebody just told me. And honestly, most of the things, they're pretty common sense, but you don't really think about them. Like, for example, not pushing the car to its limit on every lap. When you have the line on, you're kind of, I guess you feel more comfortable pushing the car because you'll see the line go yellow and you go, oh, I can kind of push it through the yellow. But more often or not, you're probably not even at the limit, or maybe even past it, because the Forza lines aren't perfect. They're not. And depending your entire racing line, I guess, off of the recommended line, it's just, you wind up pushing way harder than you need to, and more likely than not losing time or only gaining like a fraction of a second. I found that with the line off, instead of just going to the 100-meter board and just hard braking, turning in, right, I'm actually coasting a lot more, and I found it to be more reliable. I feel safer, yet I don't feel like I'm losing any speed. Now, I'm not saying that I'm taking my foot off before I even see a 400-meter marker, but I'm taking my foot off and then applying the brakes slightly later. And it just, not pushing the car to its absolute limit, you find what the limit actually is. I would, you know, do a couple of laps of just like a race pace. And then when you got a car up to close to you, I would be like, okay, I kind of know where I could push a little harder. I'm not trying to, because I want to finish the race. I don't want penalties. I want that safety rating to go up because the lower it goes, the harder it is to go back up. But you gotta like find that line of being consistent and being on the limit, because you can't consistently be on the limit. Some people can, but I'm not that guy. Another thing that was shocking to me was how much I used to just stare at my mirror. I'd be coming to heavy braking zones, and when I had the line on, I had the luxury of looking at the mirror, seeing where the guy behind me is going to go, while having a big bright red line pop up in front of me. My peripheral vision telling me to slow down. With the line off, you can't really do that. You gotta juggle them, I guess, a little bit more strategically. So you can't stare at your mirror as much. And I will say the radar is a lifesaver, but you really just gotta commit to your own line and ignore the people behind you. You spend too long looking at the mirror, you're gonna go off every single time. And there was probably, I want to say, the first 75% of the races I did, that's almost how every race wound up. I just would stare at my mirror and go off. This race in particular, it's not my first one, but I just felt like I was pretty consistent. The C7 and we battled quite a bit for almost the majority of the race, but I felt like I was able to race him clean while also have good pace. And you can see there, that was a case of me staring at my mirror again. You might not look at it like that, but I know that's exactly what happened. I remember it vividly. I'm staring at the mirror, seeing how close he was, and just missed my braking reference. Adding on to that, I feel like I'm starting to understand all the different cars a bit better now that the line's off. I'm just going to use an example to kind of explain what I'm trying to say. When you're in the GT2 series with the line on, you can jump from the 911 RSR, the Corvette, the Audi R8. There's all these different types of cars, and with the line on, you really don't get a good understanding of how those cars rotate and feel on the road. You end up just kind of doing whatever the line tells you. But having turned the line off, I feel like I understand what I like from a car now, if that makes sense. The C8 mid-engine, it just feels balanced as I go off there, but it feels really balanced. I kind of like that. I used the McLaren and the GT3. That was mid-engine. I really like that as well. But the Porsche, which I had so much luck with when I had the line on, I was really struggling with the line off. I don't know why it was such a hard thing for me to start to pick up on, but I just struggled to rotate the Porsche as much as I wanted to. Now, when I was trying to learn how to race with the line off, I started with the cars that I was previously really good with, such as the 911, the Audi R8. I wanted to use the cars that I felt competitive with, but I wound up going to the Corvette. When I first got into Forza, I guess specifically when I started doing the GT2 a bit more, I started using the Corvette a lot because it just felt, I don't want to use the word easy, but it felt like one of the easiest cars to drive, I guess. I'm going to use that word. It was easier. It was an easier car. And I felt like I learned how much speed I should be taking through these corners, and strategies and stuff a lot better with the Corvette than I would with the RSR. The 911 is just so tricky that you're focusing more on trying to tame it than you are actually racing. Well, the Corvette, it just felt right, and I felt like I was able to accurately learn how to race with the line off. Now, if anyone's trying to learn to race with the line off, I will say one of the things I wish I did was go to a slower series. I had so many accidents because it's just so the cars are so much faster. You can't really stop to think, or you're gonna wind up in a wall. I wish I would have done more of the touring cars, or maybe even the MX-5 Cup cars. I feel like those cars would have really helped me learn how to carry my momentum through the corners a lot better. And, well, there's a lot of reasons, but I think just working with a slower car would have been a better idea. But I really enjoyed doing the GT2, and I, like I said, my skill rating, my safety rating, it dropped quite a bit, but I kind of just muscled through it and slowly started to pick up on things. If you're trying to learn to race with the line off, I highly recommend you don't do what I do and nosedive into the GT2 series. It will impact your safety rating and your skill rating, but if you want to do it, you can. I did it. It's just it's punishing. Another thing that just came across my mind, other drivers, when you have the line on, you tend to use the line to guess where the other driver is going to brake. You use it to guess where they're going to turn in. It's just, it's not something that you might be actively thinking about, but subconsciously that's what you're doing. If we all have the line on, we're all going to brake when it turns red. We're all going to naturally try to follow that line. Now, I used to say the line's a suggestion, but it's kind of hard to not be on the line. It's recommended for a reason. It's fast, but having the line off, I feel like you're able to learn your opponents better. Now, you could say, well, with the line on, if they have the line on, you can learn them easily. They're just going to follow the line, but that's not really what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, you just kind of get more in tune with what's going on. You notice mistakes by the people around you more. You become a bit more immersed in what's going on. You're not just, a part of your brain isn't just looking at the line, taking in that information, going, okay, this is when I should brake, this is when he's going to brake. You're fully immersed in the race, and naturally you're going to be a bit more careful because the line's off. So I'm having a hard time finding the words to explain it, but you really do notice the differences in all the different drivers on the track. You can find the gaps a lot easier. Another race. This is the race immediately following the race in Barcelona. This is Laguna Seca. I stayed in the C8 because I really enjoyed it, but I felt like this race was also a really good one that I learned in. Being taken out at the very start isn't always the most welcome thing to happen, but I actually really liked it because I purposely don't qualify in my races because I like starting from the back. And I've said it before, when you finish a race and you see a little green arrow next to your name saying how many places you got, it just feels better than if you qualify third and wind up in fourth. It says you went down one. You just get a much better feeling when you overtake people, right? But being taken out at the beginning of the race, you're kind of just forced to go at the back, and it gives me more cars to practice against. I have no one really behind me to worry about ramming me if I'm braking too early, which is one thing I actually have failed to even mention, which is kind of wild. It's been about 15 minutes and haven't even talked about it. It is so much scarier seeing cars in your mirror now with the line off, because you're going off of your braking reference. You don't know what the line is anymore. You don't know what the other drivers see if they have the line on, which kind of gives you this feeling of anxiety, like they're gonna brake when it turns red, when you might be braking when it were be yellow, right? They're trying to push it to the limit because that's what the line says. You're just trying to push your own limit. You're trying to find the best way to carry the most amount of speed through the corner without, slamming on the brakes. And being able to race with everyone in front of you and no one behind you, you're able to just find your line without the anxiety of the oncoming doom of someone ramming the back of your car. Now, you can't eliminate that feeling, because the moment you pass a couple people, well, now they're at your back and they can ram into you. But it's nice at the beginning of races just to find your groove, find your race pace, get used to the car, stuff like that. I did a race at the Nürburgring, the full circuit in the GT2 cars, and I'm not going to use it as footage because it's kind of a shit show. But maybe I'll upload it with just no commentary or something. But races like that, you really appreciate the line being off. I've never been able to figure out the Nürburgring, but when I had the line off, I felt like it was clicking a bit more. Because with the line on, you get this false sense of security that you're gonna brake whenever it tells you to. But when the line's off, I mean, you're relying on fear and fear alone. I was able to pass a lot of people, but was also driving under the pace, so it's fun. I'm just gonna continue rambling about how much more fun I've had with the line off. I don't think I could ever go back. Now, in other games, I like to do a lot of F1. Specifically, I got a lot of time in F1 23. I think that game might be hard for me to turn the line off, but I feel so encouraged. I want to turn it off. I feel like I could do so much better. In ACC, I already have it off. In iRacing, I have it off. I haven't done iRacing in a long time, though. Didn't feel like paying a monthly subscription, but I can't stop talking about how much more enjoyable it is with the line off. It's so frustrating for such a long time, but if you have ever had the thought of turning the line off, just do it. Just turn it off. It's gonna suck for a little bit, but in the long run, you're gonna feel better. It's gonna be much more enjoyable. And well, if you ever have a track day, you're gonna just feel a bit better. You're not gonna go, well, I think I might know how to do this. I usually have a line on though, You'll just feel more confident. You feel like you've learned how to do it rather than the game telling you. I want to mention one more thing before I forget about it. Throughout learning without the racing line, I've stuck to stock tunes. I've never really been a fan of putting tunes on my car. I know you can find a lot of speed and stuff, but I've always really just enjoyed using the stock tune and maybe tweaking it a bit, like adding some downforce, removing some, changing the tire pressures, just small things. And that's mostly just for consistency. I'm not gonna say if, I have done it. I have put tunes on. I just feel like I don't feel as consistent. And you can't change the tune once you put someone else's tune on. You're just stuck with that tune. If you use a stock one, you can kind of just mess with it as you go. So, although maybe I could just go get a tune and be a lot more competitive, using the stock tune and just tweaking things as I go, I feel like has aided me in learning how to drive with no line, just because every race the car feels the same, or at least mostly the same. Maybe one or two values different in a certain area, but it's the consistency that's helped a lot. Using one car, using one like spec series, not changing too much. That's what really helped me learn how to race with the line off. Later on, the GT3 series came back in rotation. I went to that, and I used, I think, a McLaren that I had a tune on, and it was great, but I'm starting to understand the feeling of the cars a bit more now, and I just couldn't change anything. I was stuck with that tune, so I recommend, if you're going to turn the line off, keep the car stock. Well, stock as in tune-wise, but don't go too crazy. Putting a tune on isn't going to instantly make you the fastest driver on the field. And I really love Laguna Seca. I know this video has kind of become more like a video diary or something silly like that, but I had so much that I wanted to say, and there's so much learning for me to do. I got so much footage still, so much more footage than I have time to edit. I might just start uploading just raw races for you guys to watch without any talking, because I can only talk about so much, right? I'm gonna run out of things to say, but man, I really just enjoy watching the races with the line off more now. There's something about I can't stop talking about turning the line off. That's the topic of the video, so I guess whatever. But man, this Porsche in front of me, I couldn't get by him. This Viper slowed him down a bit, so it made it a little easier to catch up to him. But you saw on a couple previous laps around the corkscrew, he wouldn't let me get by. Now I got a good run through here, get alongside him, but I'm on the outside, and this is kind of a dangerous area to overtake on the outside. You will wind up in the dirt. 9 times out of 10, the other guy is going to push you in the dirt. But this section right here, I consistently found more time than the cars in front. And I actually you saw a couple times I was able to get alongside just because I had way better exits. Now that last one I probably should have gotten penalized on. I went off, but I guess the game deemed that I lost time, so it didn't. Now, like I said earlier, I been doing the medium to soft strategy, so I'm going to pit here, almost destroy him. I don't really know what I was thinking, but oops. But went in the pit, got my softs, got about 5 laps to push them, sitting in 9th. Not amazing, but not awful. But luckily, when we skip ahead a little bit to lap 11, we've jumped up to 6th place. We overtook the Porsche in the pits. We probably stayed out on those mediums a little too long. If he was on mediums. I'm pretty sure everyone was on mediums. And what makes it even better is he's got a nice fat penalty, so we got quite a bit of a cushion of comfort here. There isn't a lot of race left, but you can be pretty confident. 2 laps left when the guy behind you has close to 2 seconds in penalties. It should be a walk in the park. Should be able to just drive the car smooth and bring it home and not really have to worry about him overtaking me. Yeah, he's probably on better tires now because he pit later, but not only does he have to pass me, he has to pass me and make up about a second. So as long as I play good defense and maybe apply some pressure by taking some corners a little faster than you should, like that one right there, I know I can carry a lot more speed through it than he does. Almost the entire race, I felt like I was taking it better, and right there, I swear he went off. Okay, yeah, he did. So now it's not a walk in the park. Now it's basically set in stone. He's got 3 seconds of penalties. There's no way I should ever lose this. Going into lap 13, yeah, he's got a great draft on me, but I just gotta stick it on the inside and force him to go wide. Make him challenge me and go overtake on the outside, which was immediately a regret, because this is Forza, and he just tried to overtake on the outside and cut in front of me. But you know, we kept the position. Can't be too mad. I'm shocked that no penalty was applied on that crash, but at this point it would just be beating a dead horse. He doesn't need any more penalties. He's lost so much time, and frankly, there's a line of cars behind him, so he might not even be safe himself. Now, braking a little early there because I'm just trying to be consistent. I'm trying to force him to just push too hard, because if I can get him to cut that corkscrew again, that's another easy second of penalties. Just making it easier and easier for me to keep my position. I do have to admit, though, besides a couple of scrappy things, he has been pretty clean. For someone with 2.7 seconds of penalties, probably not all of them being his fault, I'm shocked that he wasn't more aggressive. Even right there, he could have just nosedived and destroyed me and just said whatever, but he was pretty respectful. And this is a last lap shootout at this point, and he needs to overtake me and make a lead of 3 seconds, and he just, I gotta say, I guess thank you. I love a good battle. I love a good clean battle. You don't get those very often in Forza. You definitely don't get them in these lower safety rating lobbies. I dropped down to about a B, which is, I guess it's not terrible, but I've been consistently at A or S, and I will say being at B is a massive drop in I guess just how safe people are. People are a lot more aggressive. They're not scared to hit you as much. You also see a lot more players on controller that do that little shaky thing on straights, where they're just hitting left and right on the joystick to try to stay straight. It's always scarier, but that's all I really have to say. It was kind of a long video. Probably not gonna upload a crazy long vlog video diary type like this again, but there was so much I had to say, and I just wanted to put it out there to the world. So if you actually watched the whole thing, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate it, and I guess I'll see you next time. See you later.